Hey guys, so welcome to this video series on the basics of UV unwrapping using my 2017 update 3. In today's video we will be covering what the process of UV unwrapping actually is and how we can UV unwrap a simple object. For today's tutorial we will be UV unwrapping a stool. So let's get started. So what is the process of UV unwrapping? Well, if you cast your minds back to the days when you were kids, at least this was in my case. I remember a particular day when I was at school, we used to make like these cubes out of paper. So what our teacher gave us was these pieces of paper with a 2D representation of a cube. So that pretty much is what UV unwrapping is. It is turning a 3D object into a 2D representation or a flat object, such as a polyplane. As you can see, this is completely flat. So this is what we're doing, guys. This is all we're doing, turning a 3D object into a flat surface. So let's get this started. So what I've done is I've prepared this object for you guys to follow along with. A link will be included in the video description, so make sure to click on that. So yeah, we're going to be UV unwrapping this stool. What is the first step that I do? Well, obviously we need to get into the UV editor. There's two ways for us to do this. We can go to UV editor. However, I advise switching workspaces just so that you get used to using different workspaces. So I'm going to switch to my UV editing workspace, and what that has done is it split our workspace into two panes. So we see a perspective view just here and our UV editor just here. Awesome. So my next step is selecting the object, go to UV, planar. Now there's many ways for us to begin UVing, however I like to just go to UV and plane the map because it gets our whole UV, it keeps our object uniform in our 0 to 1 space basically, which is exactly what I'm wanting. So our next step is dividing this shell into smaller shells. By shell what I mean is, well, if I hold right click here and go into object mode, we can see that this is one whole object, right? Well, in the UV editor, instead of them being called objects, they're called shells. So there's one complete shell just here, and I want to split this up into smaller shells. So what do you think we do from here? Like, where do you think we would split in order to create, or in order to make this a 2D object? Well, for one, we need to cut the legs off, right? So that the legs have their own shells. So that's the next step. We need to select an edge ring or an edge loop. So if I just double click here, hit 4 on my keyboard, and we can see that that's not actually selecting the edge loop around the leg. It's actually going all the way across the body just there. So what do? We try to select a different one. So if I select you, and we can clearly see without me even needing to hit 4 that the edge loop is going around the base of my object. So again, let's move on to this one. Hit 4. Now, as we can see, it's sort of selected the whole edge loop, but it hasn't actually completed a loop around. Now that's not an issue. We can fix this manually by hit 5, and now we can just complete the loop by holding shift, left click, and then just keep left clicking until we have a complete edge loop, just like so. Brilliant. Now what we do is we hold shift, right click, cut. It's really important, in my opinion, to start getting used to using this marquee menu, by the way guys, because it honestly speeds up your workflow. So yeah, definitely get in the habit of using the marquee menu early game, so that late game, when you're actually pro, you just do it without thinking basically. So by doing that, we have now created another shell. So we've split this off. This is its own shell, brilliant, and we have this shell. So next step, what do you think we've got to do now? Yes, we've got to split off these legs. So I've showed you the process of doing one leg. I'm now going to fast forward this video and leave you to do the legs on your own. So I'll see you in a moment. Awesome, so we should both be at the same stage now. We have 3 legs cut off into their own shells, and we have the main base. Now, as I said guys, in the UV editor, what we want is to turn our 3D object into a 2D object, into a flat object. So from this we can clearly see that it's still 3D, right? We can see because of the shape that it's creating. So in order to make this 2D, where do you think we would need to cut? Well, if I select this shell, and now I know that the shell is here, so in order to make this a 2D object, I clearly need to apply another cut somewhere, right? So whenever it comes to cutting, you need to always be aware where you're going to be cutting. So you want to cut in a strategic place basically. You wouldn't want to place a cut here because it's going to leave a seam. Now you may be thinking, sorry, what? A seam? What's a seam? If you imagine a pair of jeans, right? And you know where the 2 pieces of material join? Well, that's a seam. It's exactly the same here. So if I place a seam here, we would see that seam. I'm going to try and put up an image of someone who's actually placed a bad seam when they've tried to UV unwrap a face. So as you can see, there's a huge line going down from the middle of his face, right? That's really bad. He hasn't considered placing the UV seam in a strategic area. So yeah, I'm not going to be teaching that kind of UV unwrapping. That's really bad, right? So yeah, in order to do it properly, we want to place it somewhere that's minimal, somewhere where we wouldn't really notice it that bad, or as bad as in that image. So I'm going to place my seam, I'm thinking here, to be honest. Now granted, we will see the what do you call it, the seam when we're like, if this object was spinning around, but it will be very minimal because, you know, it's out the way, it's behind the main focus. So with this selected, what I now want to do is make sure that this this whole line of this whole edge gets selected. So if I just hold shift, double click, and just try to maintain this flow, so we're working right down the leg, just like so, making sure it's all in a straight line. Just like so. Just like that. Awesome. So now if I hold shift, cut, select the shell, shift, right click, unfold, and brilliant. As we can see now guys, it has unfolded and it's completely flat. Now again, if you're not seeing this, if your shell isn't white, it's probably, it may look something like, I don't know, like this maybe. If yours looks like that, just make sure to click on here, on this icon just here. So with this icon, I typically always work with this icon, and what it does is it will identify if there's any stretching going on or if there's any compressing going on. So if there was any like harsh red on this, then that would mean that it's being very there's a lot of stretching going on, and if there's a lot of blue going on, then that indicates that there's a lot of compressed edges or faces going on in the UV editor. So what we want is white. That is our aim. That's what we're always trying to achieve. So yeah, we've now successfulely turned this object into a 2D object. Happy days. So now that you've witnessed how to do that, I'm going to leave you to do the rest of the legs. And now I'm going to fast forward the video now so that you guys don't have to see me doing this again and again. So stay tuned. Okay, so lastly we have the main shell just here. So how do we turn this into a flat image? Well, what we can do is simply select the whole top face by selecting one of these edge loops, doesn't really matter which one, and then hold shift, right click, cut. So now we have that top surface here, hold shift, right click, unfold, bang. See what we've done there? We've got the whole top surface UV'd correctly just like that, and there's no stretching going on at all. It's completely white, which is exactly what we're wanting. So same thing with the bottom. Double click a random edge loop just there near the bottom, shift, right click, cut, move this one out of the way, select our bottom face, hold shift, right click, unfold. And as you can see, we've got the bottom face just there. Happy days. Now if we just unfold this, let's see what happens. Cool. And what we can now do is select this edge loop. Have I selected the correct edge loop? Yep. Hold shift, right click, move and sew. Oh wait, I didn't do it properly. Okay, hold on. If I select this edge loop just here, so what, or by doing this is it's selected because these two sides here, these actually connect. So if I go to shift, right click, move and sew, shift, right click, unfold. Now you can see that it's basically sewn together. If I go to here, you can see that there's no stretching going on, which is great. So yeah, what we've got now is we've attached the top surface or the top shell to the side, which is this bit here. So that's that. Now as you can see, there's a bit of funny business going on here, right? There's like a little cut. So what we can do is if we go into edit mode, so right click, select edit, hold shift, right click, go to tools, and then go to sew. And I'll give you this brush. If you hold B and left click drag, you can scale the size of that brush. And then what we can simply do is repair this by left click and dragging. Brilliant, and that's fixed. Let me just double check if there's any more going on, any more funny business, or is everything a-okay? It appears everything's good. So if we hit Q, right click, UV shell, shift, right click, tools, sorry not tools, unfold. And I'll just try and clean everything up. Okay, so that's where I'm gonna, that's my procedure basically of UV unwrapping a simple object. So that's pretty much everything, guys. Yeah, everything's flat, everything's 2D, and everything's white, which is the main important thing. So now what we can do is select everything, shift, right click, layout UVs, and I go into this option box just so I can change a few things. So if we take a look, so if I set this to reset, so that you get to see, or so that everything's the same on your end as well. So what I typically do is, I mean, I'm still playing around with this, but what I always do is I just switch this to 4K, because when I'm in Substance I always export my textures in 4K, so why not set this to 4K, right? And then I just hit layout, and brilliant, happy days. So yeah, that's job's a good one. That's been sorted. So awesome, we've got our UVs sorted, and now what we can do is export this into Substance Painter. So that will be in my next video, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you have learnt something today. Yeah, take care, have a good day, and peace.